then still we are hungry to reduce the weight. Because why? As Tushar had shown in last lecture, our CO2 requirement of the car is going to go zero in 2050. They have not yet said zero, it will be 20 gram CO per kilometer. Now other OEMs, we are now with our fossil fuel 120 gram. We have reached maximum with optimized engine, optimizing 120 gram per kilometer. In next phase, in 2025, you have to go to 70 gram. In 2030, 50 grams. In 2040, 20 grams. And hopefully in 2050, 0 gram. If you don't fulfill that requirement, for every 1 gram, you pay 25 euro as penalty. Now, how will I get this? I will become bankrupt. All the companies are going to go insolvent if they don't do it. They will say, in fact, it is said that it is better to produce the car and throw it away rather than sell those cars, because actually I'm paying more penalty than actually earning that. Last year itself, many companies, including us, had paid billions of euro penalty. Luckily, Corona helped us. Because of the Corona, the sale was less and the electrification of the car actually helped us. But otherwise, the penalty would have gone in 2 digits, in billions of euros. And this is going to increase. There is no tendency to go down. So we have to decrease basically the weight drastically. And that's why instead of paying penalty, now pay the same price for aluminum. We know aluminum is expensive. But compared to the penalty you will pay, it is cheaper. And that's why I feel the next generation, in next 5 to 7 years, the steel will probably start going away from the car. Especially Audi A8, we know is 100% aluminum. All electric cars are having now more or less 50% to more than that aluminum. Complete battery structure is of aluminum. Aluminum will keep on increasing. It might not be surprising that in 10 years, there will be no steel in the car. We don't want that. It's too much penalty and aluminum is much cheaper. Aluminum, because it is better, because of the same formula. Maybe the strength is less, but E is low. If E is low, I can absorb the same amount of energy. So crash problem is not happening. Plus, it is light. Density of aluminum is 1/3 that of steel. And that is the advantage. So, and once aluminum starts coming in picture, then the next trend is to go for magnesium. It has already started coming, especially as basically a structural part inside the, bonnet or front lid. Those areas are becoming magnesium. We have no doubt a problem with corrosion, but that will be solved. And finally, even that is not sufficient, because we have to produce some kind of fossil fuel car. Everything will not be electrifying, because we don't have that much of charging station, we don't have that much of electrification in the power line. Every fossil fuel car you make, you pay penalty. So they know that that will be only reduced if you still reduce the car. My body in white, which is at present around 500 kilogram, has to come to 100 kilogram. 5 times low. Aluminum is reduced by 25%. Steel has, high strength steel reduced by 25%. Aluminum by 45%. The only way I can do this is by using carbon fiber reinforced plastics. And that is the future. CFRP. Basically, we have to see to it that whether we like it or not, we cannot avoid cars without CFRP, carbon fiber reinforced plastic. Highest strength, the lowest weight. We have to find the solution how we can get basically cheaper way of production. But this is going to be most important for the electrification of the car. Otherwise, we will never reach the target. Anyway, 70 is practically impossible to reach at present. 50 to not unthinkable. But with increased electrification, with increased lightweight, maybe we will reduce our penalty to 1 digit billion euros. Maybe you might say that this is only in Europe. It might not come in India. Friends, it is not the case. Even India has to have its CO2 balance, and it will immediately come also in India that your CO2 requirement has to go down. So initially what was happening that your lightweight was based on the crashworthiness. People wanted to get 5-star. Now the lightweight in future because of the electric vehicle will be dominated because of the penalty which they have to pay. No OEM will do it on their purpose unless they are forced to do it. And this rule is fixed, 20, 40, 20 gram. 2050 0 gram has not yet been finalized, but it is bound to happen. And anyway, after 2030, there will be 2040, they say there will be no fossil fuel car made. Who can pay billions of euro penalty? Better not to produce anything. So in this lecture, which I'm going to do today, why I'm focusing on electric vehicle car is because in next 30 years, we will not have any IC engine car. Not whether we like it or not, no one will produce it. It is not feasible. And that is very important that if we have this electrification car, then we need more and more batteries because people will not buy the car if it is only 100 mileage kilometer range. At least people want 500 kilometer range. Whether they use it or not is a separate thing, but still they will need 500 kilometers. It means I need that much of battery. I need that much of battery. I have to compensate from the car, from the body in white. So the target is your body in white should be such that someone, I would say, the two ladies can pick up with the hand, 100 kilogram. In fact, I will show the picture also. That is basically from Audi A8 and something where that it can be picked up hand. 100 kilograms should be the weight. At present, it is something in direction of 250. 20 years back, it was 500. So you can imagine where we are going in that lightweight vehicle. So basically, when we're talking about lightweight thing, it is not just using material. Finally, we also have to see on the process side, the tooling side, lubrication side, coating side, whether we can produce this material. So my lecture, this is a very, very big lecture, 100 pages, where I'm not just giving information about the material, also how we have to modify the tooling, how we have to modify the lubrication, how we have to change the coating, texture, everything for making this lightweight possible. I have told you in warm forming that there is possibility to apply the zinc coating in the end. But zinc is again an environmental problem. Why apply zinc everywhere when it is not necessary? So nowadays even people are thinking to apply zinc coating after warm forming, that is indirect warm forming, locally, especially in the area of the welding zone or especially in the area which is exposure to the atmosphere. Not other areas not necessary, and that is done by cold plasma technology. This cold plasma technology is basically found by company Rheinhausen in Germany, that you are giving the powders of zinc, creating basically a plasma wave between anode and cathode, and it is spread. But as we know, plasma is basically a hot process. Now cold process is basically you are creating plasma but at the room temperature. So the adhesion is not that high, but is sufficient enough because your part is having still a temperature of around 100-120 degrees centigrade, and that zinc which is applied melts on that part and it is easily done. So this is done immediately in the same tooling after the warm forming, if we would be using indirect method. For direct method, anyway we have this aluminum Si coating, it is sufficient. So indirect method, we may need the zinc coating in the end, is applied by different way, because no one will put that part again in the zinc bar or put the galvanizing or send it to someone outside. One has to see from the feasibility point of view. We are talking about not one part, two part. The part production is in terms of millions, and that's why such processes have started coming into existence. Local application of zinc by cold plasma technology. So basically up till now what we have covered today is what are high strength steel. We found that finally we need to absorb energy. We realized that we could do it by changing crystal structure, BCC to FCC, by making austenitic at room temperature, as done in advanced high strength steel or second generation advanced high strength steel. Same thing, austenitic at room temperature. We can create by creating more strain hardening like in trip steel, twin steel. We can create it by giving two different crystal structures, ferrite martensite as a dual phase steel. We can create it even stronger by creating 3 or 4 more structures, ferrite in bainite with pearlite, complex phase steel. Or we can basically completely change the process to warm forming and basically use advantage of austenite for the deformation and then martensite for the strength, so that we could actually have a very complex part. Then we realized that we could still get the lightweight by tailor welded blanking. Then we can get even more lightweight with tailor welded blanking and warm forming. We can get even more better crash worthiness if the soft zone technology is used, because the part has more ductility basically where we need it, and we can get even more better when we can put some patches on warm forming. And finally we realize that because of the electrification and the need to reduce the weight drastically, we might see that aluminum and magnesium and finally the CFK would be increasingly used in the car. So basically I would stop today and then start from tomorrow the lubrication what we need for this high strength steel, the tooling which we need for high strength steel, then go into the CFK, how we can produce CFK, how we can produce aluminum high strength steel, and those into areas. So basically I hope you understood why we need this high strength steel, how we divided, how we found out banana diagram our own self. It is nothing illogical. You would yourself must have found it if you were 100 years back, born 100 years back, and you would have known these 3 slides: crystal structure, TTD diagram, and carbon diagram. If you would have known this, it is logical that you would have found the same banana diagram, because everyone does the same thing. You can harden it only by this method. You have to create alloys, you have to create different kinds of crystal structure, or basically you have to give different kind of strain. There are no other ways to make the things stronger. So today we have covered good part of the material only about the steel. Tomorrow morning we have a lecture from Professor Arora for the metallurgy part of it. I think he will also cover more about this heat affected zone and the welding problems occurring in the advanced high strength steel. Then I would take up at 11:30 to 1 and would concentrate on the tooling aspect for the steel. Let's try to finish the steel part tomorrow, so that when we go to the ArcelorMittal, we are much more prepared to ask those questions about the steel. Why it is happening? What is the reason? How can we avoid this spring back? What is done at the tooling level? You would have got some basic idea. On Wednesday, Professor Date would be explaining how actually the fossil fuel engine parts also can be made lighter with using the different technology. And then I will take up to complete aluminum and CFK, because I feel that is the future. So how the aluminum is going to be used in the future, and mainly focusing on the processes. Everyone has talked about aluminum 7000 series, 6000 series, 5000 series, but how can you make this aluminum 7000 series feasible? It is very difficult to form that aluminum 7000 series. So we will see into that processes. And we will also see about this carbon fiber reinforced plastic, how we can use this, how we can deform it, so that the whole body in white concept will start becoming clear. And then we would start with the batteries. We would see how you can make batteries lower, because finally that is the main weight component in the car. The body in white is not a weight component in the future, the batteries. So it will be also interesting if the batteries weight also reduces. And in the